Check, check. Check, check. So welcome back everyone for our second night in the 10-week series. So last time we did the 10 points practice, right? And one of the main points about that practice was learning the relationship between tension and non-awareness, or how tension blocks our ability to be present in the body, or how tension can tend to make our mind speedy or cloudy. And so that practice was about really maintaining a connection with the earth and using our feeling of the earth as a place to release the holding, the tension, pain, any of these feelings we might encounter throughout our body. And we didn't state it very obviously, but perhaps at the end of that practice there was a sense of stillness within us. Some of the aches and pains actually may have been more pronounced. We actually felt our actual body a little bit more. And that's not a bad thing or a negative thing. That's actually quite educational about what's really happening inside of us and our tendency to block experience. So we block out things we don't like. We do that with a thinking mind in our everyday life. We do that subconsciously in our body. We block things out. And in a way it's sad. We're not actually feeling how we really feel. We're not attending to things that are going on with us because we're just not cognizant of those things. The practice we're going to do tonight is called the threefold breath, and it moves on from that point. So we assume that we've established our familiarity with the relationship between tension and non-awareness. And now we're going to go look deeper into the quality of our basic being. As we do this practice tonight, as tension arises, we can let it go in that moment. So we have some momentum here of how to stay aware. And we see what actually is the nature of us, of me. We're going to look at three parts of the body: the lower belly, toward the center of the body, the heart space, and also the throat. These are three major areas of our being, but truly we could choose any part of the body and put our awareness there and learn something from it. But these three areas are pretty significant for us, and they're easy to access as well. A general guideline when we do this practice tonight is to, with your awareness, be fresh every time you look inside your body. Every moment we have to look in a fresh way. And I think this came up last time, to not judge what arises. So maybe a feeling comes up and we generate a memory about it or a story about it, or we judge it as good or bad, or we make it more profound than it might actually be. We build a story on it. But the instructions here are to not do that, just use our bare attention. Because when we look at it directly that way, without building it on top of the experience, we start to see the actual nature of the experience of being. What I mean is, if we are interested in maintaining a solid identity of who we think we are, and we know that the solid identity is what causes us so many problems, then it's good to not pay attention to the actual momentary nature of your body. When we don't pay attention to ourselves, we can walk around thinking we're this very strong, substantial identity. I am me with this personality, and the world must work around me a certain way for us to get along, right? We don't really pay attention to the constant change that's happening within us and the constant change that's happening to the outer world. We would really prefer that everything would just stop. You stay the same way, and that'll help me be who I think I'm supposed to be in this life. But if we can actually see directly that moment by moment we are nothing but a shifting, momentary, arising and falling away of experience, we start to loosen up. We start to soften on the inside. We start to see that we are not the identity that we might drag around with us every day. We start to look upon ourselves as actually quite a mystery or a miracle. We might even start to feel some relief. And I can't really logically explain how that happens. It's not like step 1, step 2, step 3, and then you're free and full of relief. But something happens over time when we start to see, moment after moment, these fresh experiences arise, and then we look again and it's a different experience. And sometimes there's nothing there. We might actually be completely empty space. We've all heard scientifically now about the structure of the atom and subatomic particles, and really that we're mostly empty space. And even what we regarded as the smallest solid particle is nothing but energy. It's a nice scientific idea, but ideas don't do anything for us. Experience does everything for us. So looking at ourselves the way we're going to tonight will give us the experience that we are not the solid being we take ourselves to be. Of course, if you're just learning this practice, tonight might be like, well, I didn't really get anything there, but of course this is a practice. So the more you do it, the more you start to see and open up to the idea, to the experience that we're not so much. So we're going to start as usual by laying down. Tonight we're not going to tie our legs. You can let your legs stretch out if that's comfortable for you. For some people, you could put your cushion underneath your knees so that there's not so much strain on your lower back. But take a few moments to lay down on your back, and then I'll continue with the instruction. So there's some things we can do every time we lay down. We do them automatically after a while. We start by just sensing which parts of our body are relaxed and easily sink and make contact with the earth, and which parts seem to sort of hover over the ground. Maybe we're keeping our thighs a certain way so that our feet aren't really falling or coming to center the way they would if they were really relaxed. Or maybe the lower back is still a little bit wound up and tight and curled. And maybe our neck is subconsciously forcing our skull to be facing the ceiling perfectly. So notice all these areas. Allow them all to soften. Give up any control. And notice how this brings you more present into the room, more present into your own being. Just take some nice deep breaths this way. And then the next pattern we can develop for the laying down practices is to check your jaw. See if you're clenching, and if you are, just allow the jaw to soften. You might notice that your shoulders are a little bit pulled up toward your ears, and then you can allow them to soften as well. You may even notice that softening the jaw has a direct impact on your mind. Suddenly things might downshift a little bit more. And then after that, we check the pelvic floor. So the anus and the genitals and the perineum. A sensation of clenching can occur in any of these areas. So see if you can soften those areas and notice how this invites the thighs and even the lower back and the abdomen to soften with it. We may even feel like we're sinking a little bit more into the earth. And then we bring our attention to the first center we're going to work with, the lower belly. And to work with it, we can bring our hands up to rest on the lower belly, just below the belly button. And we use our hands to help direct our breathing. So on the inhale, we want to breathe in such a way that our tummy pooches out, which indicates we're breathing with the diaphragm. And when we exhale, we feel our hands descend as our tummy falls back toward the spine. And it's just a comfortable in-breath and out-breath, not too much force, not any force actually. But we're not breathing so much that our rib cage is lifting and dropping. So just the tummy is moving at this point. So let's start by, on the inhale, as you feel your hands rising and your tummy expanding, feel areas of tension on the outer layer of the abdomen, the sides, and the lower back. Just any hardness, any tension, anything like that as you breathe in. And when you breathe out, allow those areas to soften, to release. There's just a natural letting go with every exhale. So we'll do this for a few moments. And if there's no particular discomfort or tension, just pay attention to the movement of the in-breath and the out-breath at the lower belly. We could say that right now we're working on the outer surface of a balloon as the balloon is being blown up and then exhaled. So now we're going to move into the space in the center of the balloon that may initially seem empty. To do this, let's just feel the warmth of our hands on the surface of the stomach. Just feeling that warmth directs our attention to that specific area. And now let your attention start to fall beneath your hands, beneath the surface layers of your stomach, down to the center of the core of the lower belly. And we're not going so far down that our attention is resting in the sacrum or the lower spine, but maybe 2 or 3 inches above the spine there, underneath our hands. There's a center point there, and don't worry about focusing or finding it specifically. But just rest your attention there, somewhere in the space at the center of the lower belly. And now on the in-breath, as you breathe in, imagine that the breath is going right into the center of the space. So on the in-breath, your attention moves there. It takes a fresh look at the experience. What is it like to be in this space? What arises? And then on the exhale, just relax. Just stay present there. And then on the next inhale, as you breathe into that area, look again. And on the exhale, just rest, looking. See if you notice any physical sensations arising. There might be little aches or pressure. There could be a temperature experience like warmth. There might even be things like colors or anything you might label energy. Or it might be completely dark and hollow. It might feel hollow. But these are just words. So with every breath, look, what are the qualities, the actual qualities? And then rest presently there on the exhale. After a while, we might experience a sense of peace or stillness, even while the tummy is moving and while experience is arising. And that's fine. We just try to maintain our awareness within this experience, and we don't zone out or relax in such a way that we're not paying attention to the moments. So keep your awareness crisp and alert, and we can still enjoy the sense of peace and openness. See if you can follow the inhale into the center of this space, this open space, so carefully that it seems like you're breathing into your own mind, that the sense of you is actually located within the lower belly. And all you have to do is just be present there, just really aware. And now we're going to shift our attention higher now to the outside of the heart area. So we start by bringing our hands up so that our fingertips rest on the breastbone, if that's comfortable for you. And again, our hands are going to help guide our breath. So we can imagine that instead of breathing all the way down into the lower belly, now we're more breathing into the mid-chest. So as we breathe in, we can feel our rib cage expanding. We're sort of guiding our breath to fill the upper chest and not so much the lower abdomen. And we start by working in an outer way, so feeling again the tension, any holding, any physical experience in the ribs, in the back, the sides, the outer casing, so to speak. Breathing in, as the ribs expand, we can feel their physical nature. Exhaling, we can let it all soften. And now let's take half a step toward the heart space, the energetic heart space. And so there is an area surrounding the heart center. We don't want to go straight for the middle of it. It can be helpful to see what's going on around. So bring your attention in from the outside, so in from the rib cage or further up from the back and just below the breastbone towards the heart center. Breathing into that area and then feeling it on the exhale and exploring what is the quality of the border around the heart. Just by bringing your attention a little bit closer to the heart center, an experience might arise that you were not aware of before. It might be a defensive feeling, or it could be a joyful feeling. It could feel like a concrete block, or like warm velvet. See how it is for you. We're not trying to change anything or open anything or control anything. Just feel it in a naked way, in an open way. And then check again on the next breath. And now we can work our way more into the center, into the heart space itself. But you can do it gradually, breath after breath, following the breath more closer through the outer boundary towards the center. And this is an area that's somewhere in between the breastbone and the spine. Again, it's going to be probably towards the spine, towards the back. And you have to see for yourself what area here calls for you. It might seem like there's a certain energy that's particular to this area. It might seem quite open, actually, like this little area of outer space is inside your body. It might be particularly still, but it'll be different for everyone. So find this area that has unique qualities in your current experience. Follow the breath into it, and then on the out-breath just rest within the space, noting the qualities, noting the arising and the passing away of the experiences. can have a sense of maitri, of loving kindness as we do this. So we're not attacking this region or being too cold about it. It's as if we're listening with a kind heart, listening to our own heart. Anytime you get really distracted, just check your jaw and check the pelvic floor. Make sure you haven't gone back to holding those areas tightly. And then just come back to the body part that we're working on. And now we'll move to the third center. And this is the throat space. If it works for you, we bring our fingertips up to rest on the collarbones or the upper chest. That doesn't work for everybody because of arm length or body shape, and you can put your arms back by your sides if that's better. And we're just now directing our attention to the space above the collarbones. And we can't quite limit the breath into this area. We can't get enough breath that way. So we just remain breathing into the upper chest. But our intention is to bring our awareness now to the space of the throat. And let's just start in a general way so that on the inhale, you're feeling from the collarbones up the front of the throat, under the chin, and around the back of the neck. Just feeling that whole area. See if you can soften the back of the neck even more. Explore the whole outer area on the in-breath, feeling it on the exhale. And now we'll move more directly into the throat space itself. And it might take a few moments for each person to find that space. You might start maybe an inch or two above the collarbones and just scanning up and down the lower half of the throat and toward the back, toward the spine. And for some, this area might be, it could feel open or it could feel clogged up. I know for me, sometimes when I find the area, it's because when I bring my attention there, I get irritated right away. So there's an emotional expression sometimes when we land on it. For others, it might feel blissful and happy. And so it doesn't have to be any one way, but it's distinct. So just explore, and then when you've found it, and there's no need to doubt, to wonder, did I really find it? Just work with the area that comes to you. Then breathe into it, bring your attention into it. On the exhale, just rest in that experience, looking what is here. And even though it seems like our physical breath is going through it down into our torso, the energetic breath, the prana, as long as we're maintaining our awareness here, the prana is entering this area. This is the subtle breath. And then see if just for a few moments you can let your awareness return to the other two centers, the heart and the lower belly, so that you're really feeling all three. And we're not focusing tightly, we're just resting our attention easily in these spaces. On the in-breath, feeling them. On the out-breath, relaxing, still noting the experience. Okay, you can stay like this if you like, but we'll take a few minutes now for a bathroom break, or if you need a sip of water, or stretch your legs. And then when everyone is back and in sitting position, we'll continue at that point. Okay, so now we'll begin the sitting portion. And just like last time, we start by checking our physical posture, that our torso is balanced over the hips and our head is balanced over our shoulders so that our skull is not drooping down. And the chin might be drawn in just ever slightly while keeping the head balanced over the shoulders. And we can start in series again, like we did just now, laying down with the lower belly. And what's interesting to note is sometimes we go into this habitual way of breathing where we're just breathing into the upper chest. And since we're starting with the lower belly, we can tell right away if we're really breathing with the diaphragm or not. So one way to start is you can actually physically bring your hands to your tummy the way we did laying down, and note if you're on the inhale, if your tummy is actually relaxed and expanding. Or you might notice that we're breathing kind of like this. I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. So gradually let the diaphragm soften, let the abdomen soften. Sometimes when we soften this way, we notice, we do feel some trepidation, maybe a sense of vulnerability, a sense of shakiness sometimes. It might feel like a weakness or like we're exposed. Certainly we're giving up this controlled posture that we have in public. And then we'll just touch into the space at the center of the lower belly. Again, a little bit towards the spine. Maybe about 3 or 4 inches below the navel. Also checking the pelvic floor to make sure we're not clenching any of the muscles there. And so as we breathe into it, there's a sense of this balloon expanding, and when we exhale, the balloon contracts. But the space within the balloon isn't moving, it's not changing, it has no shape. So within the movement of the physical abdomen, there is a sense of openness, of it's not quite solid. And while breathing in this relaxed way, we can include the heart center. So we bring some of our attention now up into the heart space, noting the qualities there. And then we can fold in the throat center, so bringing some of our awareness now to the throat space. And really the rest of the practice is just to maintain your attention in these areas and throughout the body. We're just being more subtle about how we notice the sensations, the energy, the sense of space, breath after breath, moment after moment. We're not controlling or manipulating or changing anything. We're just being present to the momentary experience and subtle experience in the body. And anytime you get distracted or lost in daydreams, just come back. You might notice that a feeling arose right before that happened. Maybe not. So we'll just do this for the rest of the night. just a couple of notes. If you're newer to sitting, or even if you're not newer, paying attention to our body this way can sometimes make us more sensitive to aches and pains and discomfort that arises. And we might have this inclination, we don't even think about it. We want to make it better or make it go away by adjusting our posture, by moving, or we get these itches and we want to react right away to fix it. And an interesting thing to do with this practice is note that impulse, but instead of following through with it physically, see if you can bring your attention to it. Maybe even breathe into that area that's itching or hurting or aching, or even that emotional pang that comes out that we want to make it go away. Breathe into it, come into it, and see what unfolds when we're aware that way. And if it still hurts and you really need to move, then by all means move. But it's interesting to not just follow an impulse, but look into what caused it. That could unlock a lot of really interesting knowledge for us when we look into our movement that way. The other thing is that you may already be experiencing a sense of ease, or it could be quite pleasurable or peaceful when we sit this way. And that's a wonderful thing to note. There's nothing wrong with that. This kind of ease is wonderful because we're not out there trying to get it. We're not trying to make it happen. It's not dependent on external circumstances. It's more the natural, wholesome nature of our being revealing itself. And, I was just rereading the story of the Buddha when, before he woke up, he spent years with these ascetics doing extreme practices that were quite uncomfortable. And then one moment he remembered when he was a boy meditating, and he had attained a state of concentration that was imbued with pleasure, but it wasn't worldly pleasure. It was pleasure based in what we may be experiencing here, this inherent wholesomeness. And he said, that's a good pleasure. There's nothing wrong with that. We don't cling to it. But it's nice to feel good this way through practice, isn't it? Sometimes we forget that practice can actually feel nice. And there's nothing wrong with that. It can feel quite nice. So, maybe not in the very beginning. It can be a pain in the behind. But so I'll hang out if anyone has individual questions. Otherwise, see you next week, or maybe this Thursday if you want to come on Thursdays. So good night, everybody.